The old saying is the customer is always right. This video is a monument to the 49 most unhinged customer complaints that prove that saying is, at best, a suggestion. From suing a coffee company for being too effective to demanding a refund on a helmet that didn't prevent a breakup, these are the moments reality took a vacation. 1. In the wild world of retail, customer requests can get specific, but a shopper in a San Antonio pet store redefined the term. She didn't just want a goldfish, she was on a quest for a financial advisor with fins. Her non-negotiable demand was a fish with a guaranteed long-term memory, specifically so it would recognize and internalize her daily pep talks on fiscal responsibility. When the staff, whose collective brain had just blue-screened, suggested a dog might be a better audience for life coaching, she scoffed. She needed aquatic affirmation. In a brilliant move, they sold her a betta fish named Einstein. 1 week later, she returned, receipt in hand. The fish, apparently, was a lost cause, utterly ignoring her motivational quotes about hustle culture and showing zero interest in a diverse stock portfolio. 2. A gift shop transaction turned into a delicate psychological negotiation over a coffee mug. A son bought a mug that read, "World's okayest dad," but was soon gripped by a crisis of conscience, fearing the gift would shatter his father's self-esteem. He rushed back to exchange it for one proclaiming, "World's rad dad." But then, a new anxiety took hold. What if his father couldn't handle the pressure of being consistently rad? It was an unsustainable expectation. After a lengthy debate, a compromise was reached: a completely blank mug and a Sharpie pen. This way, his dad could define his own level of greatness on a day-to-day basis. Therapy sessions were not included, but perhaps they should have been. 3. At the Atlanta airport, a fast food cashier learned that for some travelers, the laws of physics are merely suggestions. A man unleashed a tirade, claiming his ketchup packet had exploded under cabin pressure, creating a scene of condiment carnage. It was a harrowing tale of physics and fury, except for one small detail: his flight hadn't even started boarding. He was, in essence, a pre-victim of a crime that hadn't happened. When his scientific theory was politely questioned, he doubled down, demanding a free shirt and a lifetime supply of Heinz for his troubles. He received neither, but was generously offered a handful of napkins to manage his premature eruption. 4. A guest at a Nashville hotel left a furious 1-star review, complaining that the complimentary soap melted too fast. This wasn't a case of a defective product. It was a user issue of epic proportions. The man was taking 6-hour showers, apparently staging full-blown aquatic operas in his bathroom. He even suggested the hotel should provide industrial-grade soap bars, like the ones in prison movies, to withstand his hydro marathons. Management, in a masterpiece of restraint, gently suggested that shorter sing-alongs might preserve the soap. The guest responded by posting a protest ballad on YouTube about his tragic loss. Ironically, it has 0 streams. 5. Literature became a hazardous material in a Boston bookstore. A man, visibly distressed, stormed up to the counter to complain about a novel he'd just finished. His issue wasn't a typo, but a tragedy. The book had a sad ending, and he felt personally victimized by the plot. He demanded half his money back for what he called emotional damages. The clerk, a seasoned warrior in the trenches of retail, didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly offered him a bookmark with pictures of cheerful puppies on it as a form of compensation for his literary trauma. It seems bookstores might need to start adding trigger warnings for unhappy endings. 6. Proving that confidence is everything, a teenager attempted what could only be called a reverse bank robbery. He tried to deposit a massive stack of Monopoly money, arguing with the teller that rampant inflation had logically elevated it to the status of legal tender. He called it creative economics. The bank manager was summoned and, instead of calling security, offered the young visionary a brochure on financial literacy. Unfazed, the teen countered by offering Boardwalk and Park Place as collateral. At that point, the bank's patience ran out. He did not pass go, he did not collect $200, and his economic theory remains, for now, unproven. 7. The concept of a product warranty was stretched to its absolute limit at a Denver sporting goods store. A snowboarder demanded a refund for his helmet, citing a critical failure. It didn't prevent a breakup. Apparently, his girlfriend had ended things mid-slope, and he felt his protective gear had let him down. The store's return policy covered manufacturing defects, not romantic disasters. Undeterred, he argued that emotional padding and heartbreak resistance should be standard features. When his request was denied, he left, presumably to find a new helmet and maybe a relationship counselor. 8. Nothing is too strange for guest services at an Orlando theme park, including a human-on-robot domestic dispute. A woman filed a formal complaint that an animatronic pirate had winked suggestively at her fiancé, threatening the sanctity of their relationship. She demanded counseling vouchers to cope with the trauma of this brazen act of mechanical flirtation. The park's solution was swift. The tech team reprogrammed the pirate to blink both eyes at the same time. Now, instead of looking like a swashbuckling homewrecker, the pirate just looks perpetually confused and slightly pained, as if trying to remember where he parked his ship. Romance was averted, but the pirate's dignity was a total loss. 9. In a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph, a shopper sprinted through the checkout line, waving a 99-cent coupon like he just won the lottery. The victory lap was glorious, until he looked at the receipt and reality hit him like a freight train. The item cost $100. Undeterred by the tyranny of basic mathematics, he marched to the service desk and demanded the store price itself down to honor the emotional significance of his coupon. He argued for a system of emotional arithmetic, where the joy of a good deal outweighs the actual numbers. Management's offer of a free math lesson was rejected. He left, receipt in hand, which he has probably framed as a monument to the day feelings almost defeated fractions. 10. The information desk at the Houston airport once fielded a complaint from a businessman who was furious that the moving sidewalk was, in his words, walking too slowly for my ambition. He wasn't joking. He seriously proposed the airport install premium, high-speed surge pricing lanes for alpha travelers like himself. The staff, maintaining professional composure, offered to simply turn the walkway off so he could sprint unimpeded. He rejected this practical solution, demanding instead that the airport issue complimentary rollerblades at security. For the first and only time that day, a TSA agent was heard laughing out loud. 11. A Philadelphia cheesesteak joint, a place of sacred culinary tradition, was once challenged by a tourist with a very specific vision. He confidently ordered a vegan cheesesteak with extra cheese. After the cook gently explained that cheese is, in fact, not vegan, the man clarified. He wanted vegan cheese made from real cows that only ate grass. The cook just stood there, blinking, his entire understanding of food and logic rebooting. He eventually just grilled some peppers and onions, threw them on a roll, and served it to the man, calling it the existential sub. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the only sane option. 12. On a rainy Portland day, a woman returned a brand new umbrella, not because it leaked, but because it only blocked vertical rain. When the clerk explained the concept of wind, she became indignant, demanding a model with aerodynamic shielding against diagonal moisture. She didn't just want a refund, she demanded a full product recall, citing a fundamental design flaw in reality itself. Management offered her a heavier, more wind-resistant model. She accused them of a cover-up and threatened to write a letter to the National Weather Service about their complicity in promoting defective atmospheric conditions. 13. Welcome to the Jersey Shore, where even the arcades can become a constitutional battleground. A teenager, after failing repeatedly to win a stuffed animal, stormed up to the attendant and demanded the claw machine be recalibrated. His reasoning? The machine's blatant unfairness violated his constitutional right to plushies. The attendant, clearly underpaid for this level of legal debate, offered him a few extra tokens. The teen countered with threats of taking his case all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm fairly certain Clarence Thomas has bigger fish, or in this case, bigger stuffed lobsters, to fry. 14. A customer in suburban Ohio returned a toaster with a complaint for the ages. It was burning the face of Jesus into every slice and traumatizing his children. When the store staff, intrigued, asked for proof, he produced a piece of toast that looked less like the Messiah and more like a very happy little Bob Ross. After a brief, respectful silence, management offered to swap the toaster. The man agreed, but then asked if the new model could be configured to produce the face of Elvis instead. You really have to admire a man who knows what he wants, even if it's a paranormal breakfast appliance. 15. A cautionary tale from a tattoo parlor. Be very careful with your font choice. A client got an inspirational quote, but due to some unfortunate kerning and a curvy font, the healed tattoo read less as uplifting and more as dripping with sarcasm. She returned, demanding a skin-level retraction of the sentiment. The artist, trying to de-escalate, offered to add a comma to soften the tone. The client wanted a full literary edit, as if her skin were a Microsoft Word document. A compromise was eventually inked. A strategically placed semicolon, a universal symbol for "this story isn't over yet." 16. In the pantheon of bizarre complaints, this one is timeless. A man returned a brand new watch, claiming its constant tick-tock was passive-aggressive. He felt it was judging his productivity with every passing moment. The horologist, a fancy term for a watchmaker who has seen it all, suggested some quartz therapy, which isn't a real thing. The customer then demanded to exchange the watch for an hourglass, but only if it was filled with more encouraging sand. The transaction remains suspended in a state of temporal limbo, while the second hand on the offending watch continues its silent, snarky judgment. 17. A college student attempted to sue a national coffee chain for a truly unprecedented reason. Their espresso was too effective. He claimed the potent caffeine caused him to unexpectedly ace all his final exams, which in turn destroyed his carefully cultivated identity as a campus underachiever. The company's legal department was completely stumped, asking how one could possibly calculate the monetary damages for accidental success. The proposed settlement? A lifetime supply of decaf. He rejected the offer and is probably wide awake right now, plotting his appeal. 18. Someone once tried to return a pack of scented trash bags because, and I quote, they made the garbage feel judged. He felt the floral scent was condescending to his banana peels and coffee grounds. The store employee, a sanitation engineer in spirit, recommended a simple, unscented bag to promote humility. But the customer insisted on a more therapeutic solution, an aromatherapy bag that empathizes with waste rather than critiques it. A prototype is likely pending for a new fragrance line called Your Valid Leftover Casserole. This is what happens when kindness goes too far. 19. The mechanics at a Houston oil change garage were confronted by an enraged customer whose car still smelled like French fries after a full service. He furiously accused them of aroma sabotage, a conspiracy to force him into buying their overpriced air fresheners. The confrontation was tense, right up until the moment one of the mechanics pointed to the fossilized collection of fast food wrappers and stray fries decomposing under the man's front seat. The sabotage, it turned out, was entirely self-inflicted and probably supersized. 20. In a Portland thrift shop, a sacred relic from the 1970s, a lava lamp, was unceremoniously returned. The customer's complaint was a perfect snapshot of our times. It moves too slowly and it's ruining my TikTok vibe. The staff, who were likely not born when this lamp was cool, had to gently explain that the laws of physics and molten wax haven't received a software update since the disco era. Unfazed, the young woman then asked if they carried any high-speed lava. The clerk, without missing a beat, replied, "Only in Yellowstone, ma'am, and their return policy is notoriously difficult." She left, presumably in search of a faster, more algorithm-friendly form of ambiance. 21. The night shift at a luxury Miami beachfront hotel received a call at 2 in the morning that will live on in company legend. A guest was demanding that housekeeping come up and quiet the ocean. He wasn't kidding. He claimed the sound of the waves breaking on the shore was exceeding the city's noise ordinance. When offered complimentary earplugs, he scoffed and counter-offered a brilliant engineering solution. The hotel should install a giant volume knob on the beach. In an act of pure genius, a maintenance worker simply left a decorative thermostat dial on his nightstand, labeled sea loudness. The placebo worked. The guest later reported he slept like a baby, as if Poseidon himself had personally hit the mute button. 22. A Seattle barista was once presented with an order that defied the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. A customer requested an extra hot iced coffee, but don't you dare melt the ice. What followed was a tense standoff that was part science lesson, part hostage negotiation. Finally, in a moment of inspiration, the barista brewed a fresh shot of espresso and poured it over cubes made of frozen coffee. The customer took a sip, nodded with the sage wisdom of a guru, and declared, "See, I knew you could do it. If you actually cared, you'd innovate." Somewhere in the great beyond, Isaac Newton was seen face-palming with cosmic force. 23. The hotline for a Savannah ghost tour logged a call from a woman with some very modern concerns about her paranormal experience. She needed to verify that all the specters on the tour were locally sourced and not imported. The operator, a true professional, assured her that all resident poltergeists had met their demise within the city limits. But the woman wasn't finished. "And are they free range?" she asked. There was a long pause on the line before the operator replied, "Ma'am, they are free to wander wherever their chains will let them." The booking was confirmed. Ethical haunting has a new champion. 24. In a Philadelphia deli, a place where the crunch of a pickle is considered a sacred symphony, a customer returned her spear with a grave complaint. The sound had startled her inner child. She demanded either a full reimbursement for future therapy sessions or a pickle made with a softer brine. The owner, a man whose soul was crushed by this request, chose appeasement over principle. He soaked some cucumbers in lukewarm water for an hour, put them in a jar, and labeled them pickle pillows. The woman left, completely satisfied, leaving behind a deli filled with the silent, weeping ghosts of every Philadelphian who ever lived. 25. The ticket desk at a Boston museum faced a tourist who was demanding a refund on the grounds of historical spoilers. He was furious that the Revolutionary War exhibit had completely ruined the ending of Hamilton for him. The staff tried to gently explain that American history slightly predates Broadway musicals, but he wouldn't have it. He argued that the museum had a duty to post spoiler alerts for major 18th century plot twists. They offered him headphones to censor his own historical journey, but he settled for loudly humming "My Shot," while glaring menacingly at every redcoat mannequin he passed. 26. It just smells like a Tuesday, a woman complained at a perfume counter, pushing a bottle back at the clerk. She insisted that the fragrance she had paid for was supposed to have Big Friday energy. The clerk tried to explain the complex notes of sandalwood and bergamot, but the customer was only interested in smelling like the weekend. In a desperate attempt to satisfy her, they blended a grapefruit scent with a hint of something that smelled like distant fireworks. She sniffed it, smiled, but then grumbled that the essence of Saturday was still missing. A new fragrance line was born that day. Chronologically confused. 27. An Austin food truck patron had a very specific and legally dubious request. He wanted tacos that were so authentic they taste illegal. When the chef, a bit taken aback, reminded him that he had all his immigration papers in order, the customer sighed with disappointment. "Fine," he conceded. "If you can't make them illegal, can you at least smuggle some extra cilantro in there for me?" The chef, playing along, loaded the tacos with herbs and labeled the order "contraband green stuff." The Border Patrol was, thankfully, not notified of the transaction. 28. In a high-end Manhattan spa, a guest requested a hot stone massage with one peculiar condition. She didn't want the stones to actually touch her. The therapist, a master of improvisation, offered a heated towel hover. The guest was dissatisfied. She demanded the use of invisible rocks, preferably Himalayan quartz infused with vibes only. When informed that physics prohibits the existence of massless, vibe-infused minerals, she threatened to launch a Yelp crusade against the spa for its shocking lack of metaphysical creativity. The heated towel hover may have been a physical success, but the spiritual one-star review was inevitable. 29. A diner erupted in fury when his fortune cookie delivered a crushing piece of wisdom. It predicted a breakup that he had, in fact, just endured. "Refund my heartbreak," he shrieked at the server. Caught between ancient prophecy and modern pastry, the server offered complimentary ice cream as a consolation. The man demanded the chef personally handwrite him a new set of fortunes, guaranteeing lifelong romance and happiness. The kitchen staff sent out a new slip of paper that simply read, "Love yourself first." This triggered a full-blown existential meltdown, for which extra sprinkles were provided, free of charge. 30. The scene. A Silicon Valley electronics store. A programmer was demanding a keyboard where the delete key requires two-factor authentication. His reason? He wanted to prevent the accidental deletion of feelings while writing code. The sales rep suggested making regular backups, a concept the programmer should have been familiar with. But he insisted on needing emotional version control. Exasperated, the staff handed him an old typewriter. He disdainfully called it analog latency and stormed out, still on his quest to find a Ctrl plus Z for life's mistakes. 31. A Silicon Valley couple tried to return their convertible, claiming a major design flaw. The car lacked an atmospheric API. They were genuinely outraged that the button to retract the roof didn't also sync with local weather satellites to prevent rain. The rental agent, a master of deadpan, didn't offer a poncho. Instead, he handed them a laminated paper map of the area and a coupon for a car wash. The couple left, baffled by the analog solution, having learned a hard lesson. The sky, it turned out, was not open source. 32. An Anchorage sporting goods store sold a ghillie suit to a hunter with a very specific requirement. He wanted camouflage so effective that, quote, "Even I can't find myself." The sales associate tried to warn him of the obvious hiking hazards associated with total invisibility, but the man insisted it was a risk worth taking. They sold him the suit, along with a whistle and a small mirror, just so he could occasionally confirm his own existence. 2 hours later, the store got a call from the man. He was lost in the parking lot, completely unseen between a Subaru and a Ford F-150. 33. In Salt Lake City, a customer tried to return a mattress on the 89th day of its 90-day trial period. His reason wasn't a bad back or lumpy springs. No, he claimed the mattress had absorbed too many of his bad dreams and was now spiritually contaminated. He demanded either a full-scale exorcism or a complete refund. The store manager reviewed the policy, which clearly stated no returns with stains. Unfortunately for the customer, nightmares, however vivid, are completely invisible and leave no physical evidence. He left the store, muttering about finding a priest with retail experience. 34. A librarian had to physically chase down a patron who was arguing that overdue book fines were a violation of his First Amendment rights. He passionately claimed that forcing him to pay a few quarters would effectively silence his literary voice. In a brilliant move, the library offered to waive the pennies, but on one condition: he had to perform a mandatory public poetry recital in the main reading room. To his surprise, the audience applauded. He learned a valuable lesson that day. Words may be free, but they still cost you breath. 35. On the 4th of July in Denver, a fireworks shop faced a customer whose patriotism was at war with his pug's anxiety. He didn't just want a quiet firework, he demanded a silent explosion. The clerk, a seasoned professional in the art of the absurd, suggested glow sticks. The man was insulted. He countered by unfurling a hand-drawn blueprint for what he called noise-canceling gunpowder. After a lengthy and unsolicited lecture on the fundamental principles of chemistry and combustion, the man reluctantly settled for some sparklers, vowing to patent his stealth booms and revolutionize celebrations for nervous pets everywhere. 36. A traveler at an airport luggage store tried to return a brand new suitcase with a complaint that went beyond sticky wheels or a broken zipper. The suitcase, he insisted, carried his emotional baggage too. He claimed every time he packed, his unresolved issues just seemed to sneak in alongside his socks. The clerk, who was clearly not a licensed therapist, simply suggested that he try unpacking his feelings before packing his clothes. The traveler then asked if they sold any TSA-approved therapy pockets. Instead, they slapped a fragile sticker on his bag that read, "Contents may include regrets." 37. In the high-stakes world of wedding planning, a bride demanded that the bubble-blowing machines she rented be modified to emit only heart-shaped spheres. The technician tried to gently explain the laws of surface tension and basic geometry, but the bride wasn't having it. She accused physics itself of attempting to sabotage her special day. A tense negotiation followed, resulting in a compromise. The machines would produce their standard, scientifically sound round bubbles, but they would be accompanied by a blast of heart-shaped confetti. Love remained round, but the reception was still a hit. Archimedes was not invited. 38. In a Chicago Italian restaurant, a diner sent back his fusilli, claiming the spiral shape was too chaotic for his anxiety and was disrupting his digestive harmony. He demanded a pasta with more predictable geometry and linguine-level serenity. The chef, a man who viewed pasta as sacred art, refused to compromise. Instead, he boiled a single unbroken lasagna noodle, laid it reverently on a plank of wood, and served it to the man, calling it the plank of tranquility. The customer reportedly praised its soothing architectural integrity. 39. The serene atmosphere of a San Francisco vegan cafe was shattered when a bodybuilder slammed a raw 1-pound steak on the counter. He wasn't protesting, he was pleading. "Just grill this on your equipment," he begged. "I promise no one will know." The chef, without saying a word, calmly pointed to a large neon sign behind him that read, "No meat, no mercy." The bodybuilder retreated with his contraband protein, but the scent of his crushed dreams and raw beef lingered far longer than his dignity. 40. At a Detroit auto dealership, a man discovered a fatal flaw in his new car and was ready for war. The cup holder was too small to accommodate his 64-ounce gas station soda. He accused the company of false advertising and a betrayal of American-sized convenience. The salesman, trying to de-escalate, offered him a complimentary travel mug. The man threw it back on the desk, shouting, "That's European small!" He drove off, a patriot without a place to put his beverage, in a car built on a foundation of lies and inadequate plastic molding. 41. During a screening in Kansas City, a moviegoer marched out to the concession stand with a mission. He needed popcorn that crunches silently during dramatic pauses. The staff, dedicated to the cinematic experience, bravely took on the challenge. They tried serving him half-popped kernels, but those were too chewy. They offered marshmallows, but those were too sticky. The final high-tech solution was a pair of noise-canceling headphones preloaded with white noise, scientifically engineered to dampen the sound of his own chewing. His ticket price was doubled, but cinematic tension was preserved. 42. A woman at a Pittsburgh laundromat demanded a detergent powerful enough to remove the memory of Monday meetings from her blouses. The attendant, without missing a beat, pointed her to a special product called Synergy Scrub 5000, explaining it was specifically formulated to break down the covalent bonds of TPS reports and the lingering scent of quiet desperation. She scoffed, asking if they had any existential bleach instead. They settled on a compromise: a regular detergent and a complimentary stain pen of resignation for any future career-related emergencies. 43. Florida theme park guest services received a call from a man who wanted to file a complaint against the sun. It was, he claimed, too bright over the roller coaster, which was ruining his photos. He then asked if the staff could please turn it down a notch, citing the advanced lighting rigs they have over at Disney as proof that it was technologically possible. When the representative suggested he try wearing sunglasses, he scoffed and demanded they install a moon roof over the entire park. NASA has been alerted and is currently weighing its options. 44. At a car audio shop, a customer came in to complain that his new, top-of-the-line car alarm was too melodious. He argued that the pleasant chimes failed to inspire the necessary level of panic and rage in his neighbors. He wanted an alarm that caused existential dread in a 5-block radius. When offered a more jarring siren, he said it wasn't enough. The final, negotiated solution? The technicians offered to hook his car horn up to a looped recording of Gilbert Gottfried reading the U.S. tax code. He left a very satisfied and very feared customer. 45. A San Diego surf shop clerk found himself in a linguistic and scientific standoff. A customer was demanding a wetsuit that would, in his words, keep me completely dry. The clerk patiently explained that this would defeat the entire purpose of a wetsuit. The shopper, convinced he had discovered a massive branding flaw, triumphantly replied, "Then you should call it a dry suit." On that day, the English language took a severe beating, but biology ultimately won. The ocean, much to the man's disappointment, remained stubbornly wet. 46. A Seattle call center logged a complaint from a man who claimed that the key change in the company's hold music was triggering his seasonal allergies. He wasn't just annoyed. He was demanding financial compensation for his sneezes and requested that all future hold music be certified as hypoallergenic. The agent, bewildered, simply muted the music. This was a mistake. The ensuing silence apparently caused the man to experience existential dread. The final resolution was to play whale sounds at 3% volume. The verdict is still out on the pollen count of a humpback whale. 47. At a Salt Lake City ski resort, a cashier faced the wrath of a skier who was furious that the mountain failed to provide Wi-Fi on every single slope. This egregious oversight was apparently ruining his ability to take live-streamed slalom selfies. When offered a portable hotspot for rent, he argued that data should fall like snowflakes, freely and ubiquitously. In response, the resort added a new sign at the ski lift. Gravity is complimentary, bandwidth is extra. The man's hashtagged outrage melted faster than the spring powder. 48. The customer service hotline for a bike share program in Raleigh received a call from a woman complaining that her rented e-bike wasn't Instagrammable enough under the golden hour lighting. She felt the color clashed with the sunset and was demanding an AI filter refund to compensate for her subpar social media content. The rep suggested she try riding a little earlier in the day. She argued that sun scheduling should be a premium feature in the app. The Earth, for the record, continues to orbit regardless of your subscription tier. 49. And finally, an Anchorage grocery clerk survived a near blizzard of rage when a shopper's loyalty card wouldn't scan because of a thin layer of frost on the barcode. The customer didn't see a simple weather-related problem. He saw a conspiracy. He accused the checkout laser of clear discrimination against cold people. The simple, elegant fix? The clerk suggested the man warm the card in his mittens for 5 seconds. The crisis thawed, the points were awarded, and the great state of Alaska managed to keep its cool for one more day. There is absolutely no way these 49 stories represent the peak of human absurdity. I refuse to believe it. So, here is your mission. Go to the comments and unleash the single most insane customer story you have personally witnessed or experienced. I want the one that made you question your faith in humanity. Don't hold back. If this video made your own job feel blessedly normal, hit the like button. Subscribe for more evidence that common sense is an endangered species.